My name is Lieutenant Aldo Rain, and I'm putting together a special team, and I need me 2 podcasters. We're going to be dropped down into France dressed as audience members. And once we're in enemy territory as a bushwhacking guerrilla podcasting team, we're going to be doing one thing and one thing only. Talking about killing Nazis. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I sure as hell didn't come down from the goddamn Smoky Mountains, cross 5,000 miles of water, fight my way through half of Sicily, and jump out of a fucking aeroplane to teach podcast listeners about Quentin Tarantino. They're the foot soldiers of a Tarantino-hating mass murderer maniac, and they need to be destroyed. Sound good?
Yes, sir! Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
You can't handle the truth. King Kong ain't got shit on me. I am the third revolution.
I'm so much crazier than you.
I am the one who knocks.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Best thing, big boy, huh? That's Brock. Fuck you.
Everybody on? Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful.
Welcome to Facing Off, a podcast where we take 2 movies that we find to be similar, and we compare, contrast, and rate them. I am Gabe.
I am Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, Gabe. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, man.
Good.
Yeah, what's new with you? How was your Halloween?
Spooktacular. It was good.
Ooh, sick.
It was good.
Good category.
Yeah, it was a great category.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just, we just went to a restaurant, had an adult beverage or 2, and a sandwich. It was pretty
tight.
uneventful. They gave us free candy, though, so.
Oh, I love free candy.
Yeah. Lemon heads. You had lemon heads, but the different flavors.
No.
The, like, gummy
wrong,
lemon heads?
Wrong.
With,
Just stop
like,
making lemon heads
blue
in general.
and purple flavor.
Oh, I might be down for the blue and purple flavor.
Yeah.
I'm just such a fruity candy maniac.
Yeah, then
I'm a
why did
fruit.
you just poo-poo on my lemon heads thing?
I just don't like lemon heads.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm really excited about this. We're going to be talking about 2 Tarantino movies. Before we start, just a little disclaimer. We're not experts, and we don't claim to be experts, and this is just our opinion. And please let us know your opinions. I've heard some amazing feedback so far, especially if you review us on Apple. Those have all been really nice. We really
thank you,
appreciate
everyone,
that.
for those.
It helps us out a lot. So if you haven't yet, please go rate and review on Apple Podcasts. And the other disclaimer is, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about 2 movies, and both of them require us to spoil the end. So if you haven't seen Inglourious Basterds and you haven't seen Once Upon a Time, in Hollywood, go out and see it and stop the podcast now.
Yeah, and this is the most recent movie that we've done. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that is. So like,
We understand.
yeah, if you don't want us to spoil it, it's not out anywhere that I know of yet. Is
No,
it?
it's still in theaters, and then he
Is it really?
re-released it with
oh, that's
more
right. He's
footage.
Good, perfect. That's
Yeah, 'cause
exactly
that's
what
exactly
it
what
needs.
it needed.
Yeah, so we understand if you want to save this podcast,
Right.
keep it in your back pocket for a while.
Yeah. So why don't we get started, Nick? Give us a little synopsis of our 2 Tarantino films.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone, for joining us as we rewrite history with Quentin Tarantino. He's right here with us. He's just not going to say anything the whole time that we have the podcast, though.
Yeah, I was going to
Right,
do
Quentin?
an impression of...
Quentin, right? Do you need anything?
No.
That was his bad Australian accent.
Yeah.
Join us today as we rewrite history with Quentin Tarantino. Today we compare, contrast, and rate Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Inglourious Basterds. Once Upon a Time revisits the Manson family murders and the tail end of the golden age of Hollywood. Tarantino focuses on Leo DiCaprio's Rick Dalton, a fading actor who pals around with his stuntman, driver, handyman, best friend, Brad Pitt, who plays a character named Cliff Booth. The 2 buddies persevere through failure together and bumble through some misadventures, eventually winding up intervening on the murder of Sharon Tate in gruesome fashion. Inglourious follows a band of American guerrilla warriors that carve up Nazi soldiers on their way to confronting Christoph Waltz's Colonel Hans Landa of the SS. Eventually, they orchestrate the assassination of the major players of the Third Reich with an assist from Melanie Laurent's Shoshana, a Jewish survivor of Colonel Hans Landa's awful endeavors.
Yeah.
So those are our 2 movies.
Cool.
Both Tarantino movies, both Brad Pitt vessels.
Yeah, so Nick and I are both big fans of Quentin Tarantino. I am, to a certain degree, a psychotic fan of early Quentin Tarantino movies. If you haven't heard me on Well, Actually, I went on there and held down the fort as the expert on Pulp Fiction, which is absolutely incredible. And then both of these movies are kind of fun because they both, to varying degrees, rewrite history. They're both with Pitt. They got a lot of Pitt action. And no smelly Pitts.
No.
Sensual.
Both sensual Pitts. I mean, there's no such thing as a non-sensual Brad Pitt.
Yeah. He did not age over that decade, so...
Nope.
I mean...
If anything, he got more shredded.
Rugged and handsome. He's like tough, beaten leather in Once Upon a Time. Yeah, but like hot leather.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like tough.
But yeah, that's kind of why we're comparing the two of them. And so let's get right into it and let's break down what the categories are very quickly. Obviously, we're going to do our scale, our 1 to 7 scale, 7 being highest, 1 being lowest, 4 being average or neutral or in between.
And we are going to use our typical 5 categories with a quick substitution. We took out legacy in lieu of a category that we call feet or inches.
Because Tarantino loves
He's a
feet.
feet guy.
Yeah, he loves his
He's a big
foot
fan
fetish.
of feet.
Oh, yeah.
So that's our cleverly named substitute for legacy. And it is a category that is legacy, but through the lens of Quentin Tarantino. We'll explain it more when we get there. Ready?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm ready.
Steady?
Let's start with acting.
Okay. Which
Let's
movie?
start with Inglourious Basterds.
Okay. I gave it a 7
Yeah, okay, so...
because it's my favorite.
Yeah. So acting is a category where we just talk about everything that goes into the characters and the performances, whether that be good or bad acting. Did the directors, writers, producers, assistants, whoever allow the actors to
catering
work at the
staff.
best of their ability? Yeah, I mean, that's important. You can't be giving them food poisoning.
No. I heard today from a coworker that there should be any meeting that does not have snacks should just be an email.
True that.
And I fully agree with that.
I'm going to marry your coworker. All right, so you said 7 for Inglourious Basterds out of 7.
I did.
Care to explain why?
Yes, I do care, which is why we have this podcast.
Yeah, good point.
It is my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie is Inglourious Basterds. I do not think there is any flaw in the acting, directing, or writing of this movie.
Got it.
It's pretty brilliant all the way through. Highlight, let's say, I mean, I could pick any actor, but let's say Christoph Waltz in every scene he's in.
One of the most incredible performances of all time.
Granted, he seems to just kind of do this performance
Yeah, but this came first.
multiple other times after, so then it's a little bit cheapened, but he's phenomenal. So let's just say the intro scene with Christoph Waltz as a snapshot of how good his acting is, how
Hans
good the
Landa
directing and the writing is in this movie.
It's like a perfect blend of comedy and lightheartedness at the beginning, and then just absolute terror and just
Yeah, it
taking
gives
like
you
a
a
brilliant
perfect-
hunting character.
Right, it's a perfect snapshot of what his character ends up being throughout the movie, and it's an amazing example of why the acting in this movie is a 7 for me. I think it's flawless.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 6.
Why?
Because
Is it BJ Novak?
Well, no. Okay, so for a few reasons, Inglourious Basterds is definitely one of my favorite Tarantino movies, and we'll get to that when we get to our Tarantino category. I think that it has some of the best acting I've ever seen, particularly Christoph Waltz as Hans Landa, and I really like a lot of the smaller powerhouse performances from some of the supporting cast. I think that Brad Pitt as Lieutenant Aldo Rain, you heard him at the beginning of this podcast.
We also got him.
Yeah, he had to
Right,
bounce out
Quentin?
of here really quick. No. And then, so like Brad Pitt has one of my favorite performances, but in a comedic way. And some of it is like, you can see, I have this problem with Brad Pitt. I think he's an incredible actor. But I have this issue with him when he acts, when he sometimes is smiling through his performance. Yeah. I can't tell if he's really acting or if he's just having fun, which is great for him. He should have fun at work. You know, everyone wants that. But I have a little bit of a problem with that. I think it's incredible that the performances we have, I think it's like 30% of the movie is in English. And so you're getting incredible performances in 4 different languages throughout the movie.
Yeah, I mean, stop right now, listener, and think, if you're a big fan of Inglourious Basterds, think how many lines in the movie you've quoted before that aren't actually not in English. There's
only a few like really quotable English lines in it. The better ones are in French or German.
Yeah.
Or even Italian, I guess. Yeah, and I really love, like, this is, like, probably one of the first moments that I thought Fassbender was going to be an incredible actor. He's so good as Archie Hickox.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
And I love, like, the thing that pushes it down to a 6 for me is that it's too goofy in a lot of it for me to think that it's, like, all the best acting I've ever seen. There are great performances from side actors, and I love like the bold decision that Quentin Tarantino made to have Mike Myers play like a captain, attaboy, lieutenant. He play like a captain in the army and just use his Austin Powers accent, but like make it a little deeper, even though he's a Canadian dude. But I like it a lot. I'm just not going to give it a 7 because I think that there are a lot of performances in it. I guess BJ Novak is one of them, and Mike Myers, that just, it doesn't push it over to like the best acting I've ever seen all around. But that was kind of a weird way.
But if it was intended to be that way.
Yeah, which I like. I think it was effective in terms of what Tarantino does, and I think that he had such a command over his actors and the script with this that it's like one of the better examples of his of acting for one of his movies.
But it's not the best example. Is that what you're saying?
Like Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown, I think are just, there's not a bad performance in any of them, and all of them serve some kind of purpose. I guess some people might think that like Kathy Lee Griffin is bad in Pulp Fiction, even though she's in one moment of the movie. But yeah, let's move on to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I'm curious who do you think is a bad performance before we move on?
I just think like BJ Novak is fine. Like I love Eli Roth as Donnie Donowitz,
okay.
But like
but it's over the top.
It's just like the craziest Boston accent.
Right, it's over the top and not in the way that like Mike Myers.
Daddy fucking ball game knocks it out of the park.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see you.
Let's move on to Once Upon a Time because I do really appreciate the acting in both of these movies.
Okay, so what did you give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I gave it a 5.
In acting, okay.
I think it was almost a 6 for me because I think a 5 out of 7. Leo and Brad Pitt give 2 of my favorite performances in any Tarantino movie. That's up there with characters like Hans Landa and Archie Hickox in Inglourious Basterds. And I think that as I'm a huge Leo fan, I love every movie he's been in. I think this might be my favorite performance of his.
I would agree.
He's so committed to the Rick Dalton role that I sometimes forgot that he was even playing a character and he wasn't just this washed up actor named Rick Dalton. And I love Brad Pitt doesn't have this like, over the top performance as he's had in his career with movies like Fight Club or Snatched. But it is so calm, cool, and collected that Tarantino and Brad Pitt make you really love and admire a character who probably killed his wife.
Yeah.
And is not a good person. He's an asshole.
There's a moment in the film where you're like, oh yeah, I really like this guy, and he definitely killed his wife.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hilarious moment, but this movie is riddled with controversies, even though right now it's probably like the front runner for the Oscar.
Is anything not, no
Tarantino movie has ever gone out the door without having some kind of controversy.
Right.
But like, the usage of having, a guy kill his wife and like still being cool is just like a little strange, especially since Tarantino's had some like
happened in a movie before.
Yeah, but I think it's more that Tarantino's had like sketch treatment of women with
Oh,
Uma
okay,
Thurman.
yeah, okay.
But anyways, I mean, I'm giving it a 5. I think that there are some really strong performances. I love Al Pacino in this movie. I almost
my
forgot
God,
he was
yeah.
in it. He's so good. I thought Mike Moe did a perfect Bruce Lee impression. I know that that's a big controversy, and I know it hurt Bruce Lee's family. But honestly, it was super entertaining, and I grew up watching Bruce Lee movies. It was very accurate.
Yeah.
Margot Robbie's good. Timothy Olyphant is good. I didn't really like his usage of the guy that plays Charles Manson. I just thought maybe don't even put Charles Manson in it if you're not going to use him.
Right. No, I agree.
He's great in Mindhunter, and he's great in Mr. In-Between, which we both watched.
Oh, yeah, he is in Mr. In-Between.
Yeah, he's the club owner.
Yeah.
His boss. Yeah, I mean, I just thought...
Oh, my
and
gosh.
then the thing that really pushes it down for me is the child actor. And
Yeah.
the some of the acting,
Right.
other than Austin Butler, who plays Tex, the other people that
Sure. I know yeah.
in the Manson family
Yeah.
just didn't work for me. And Bruce Dern as George Spahn didn't work for me. He's never worked for me. I hate Bruce Dern. All right, sorry, long-winded, but tell
lit
me,
up Bruce Dern.
tell me what you gave one.
So I have many of the same opinions as you do on this movie. I gave it a 6 though, and I think that the reason that I do that is because the performances of Rick Dalton, I mean Leo DiCaprio as Rick Dalton,
I mean, who could even differentiate?
and Brad Pitt to an extent kind of lift this movie to like another level for me.
Right.
It lets me I think that allows me to kind of forget about some of the other stuff. You forgot the worst acting performance in the whole movie, which is the
Australian
woman.
Oh my God.
That
the
is
director who's like the wife of what's his name?
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell's character.
Yeah, Kurt Russell's wife, like in this movie, is like that.
She just like ruined
her
probably
dozen
the
or
best
so
scene of the movie.
lines are atrocious.
I know.
It's so bad.
It's really tough to come
she might
in and have like 2 lines.
single-handedly have moved the movie from a 7 to a 6 for me in this category. She is unspeakably
Same with
bad.
the pale-faced girl.
Yeah, the pale-faced girl.
Yo, dig this, man. Dig this.
Yeah, some of it's just a little over the top, so I don't think it gets a 7, but it's... I mean, those 2 performances, like Leo DiCaprio is another person in this movie, and it is incredibly believable, and he's so nuanced. Like, and if we're going to talk about directing and writing, Tarantino doesn't let anybody improv, ever.
Right.
Improv is not part of his game typically.
Because he's such an incredible writer.
Yeah,
in the past.
except for, because he wants to stick to his writing, but he allowed Leo to improvise, and he improvises some of the best work in this movie, and it's a lot of it is that scene where he's like
the trailer
beating himself
scene is
up
my
in his
favorite
trailer.
Scene. Yeah.
8 whiskey sours, or
Why didn't you just have 3 like a normal fucking person? Yeah.
That's all improv, and it's awesome that Tarantino allowed him to do that because it lends itself to one of the best scenes in this movie.
I totally
and it's
agree.
such a good glimpse into Rick Dalton, the character, too.
I agree. I'm being a little tough, and it's just because I normally really, really enjoy Tarantino's supporting cast, and I just felt like some of them pushed away from the great parts of this movie.
Right. I agree.
Let's move on to our next category, which will be called Spectacularity, which we've done before. And Spectacularity is just about how engaged you are with the movie. Were you worried about runtime? Did it feel like it was paced appropriately? Was it structured well to keep you engaged in every moment? So let's start with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Why don't you start with yours? Because I got a lot to say here.
Okay. You have a lot to say?
Yeah, this is my biggest issue.
Okay. I think
want
we
me
have
to
the
go?
same issue with this.
Yeah.
So maybe let's make it a dialogue. On a count of 3,
Love it.
what was your rating? 3, 2, 1.
4.
5. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm giving it a 4 because I think it is, even though I think it is a really enjoyable movie and I was really engaged in a lot of it, as a big Tarantino fan, I think this is where he messed up the most because I thought the pacing was awful.
Right.
It
So
was-
it's like he did to me, and tell me if you disagree. It seems like with this movie, like I was just saying, he allows people to improv, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he probably purposefully, I would guess, Quentin, what do you think? Just let me know if I'm wrong.
No.
You just nod.
No.
It's like he departed purposefully from what he typically does to try some new things with this movie. I don't
totally
know why,
did. And I don't think
but
that's
one
a
of them
bad
is the
thing.
pacing doesn't seem to be up to snuff with his other movies, especially when you compare it to Inglourious Basterds. There's points in the movie. Spectacularity is a category where we ask ourselves if we were engaged the whole time, if we noticed the runtime. Like you do, you notice the runtime at a certain
This
point.
movie is unacceptably long. It is.
Yeah,
It's too long, and it's the
It
thing
drags.
Is,
It drags
okay,
at
so he's
points.
re-releasing it right now with like 30 minutes of extra footage, which is insane
that.
because you don't need to add anything. If anything, this movie could be amazing if it was cut better. And Inglourious Basterds, I think, is only 10 minutes shorter than this movie. But the difference is, and we'll get to it in a little bit, is how engaged you are with Inglourious Basterds because he so perfectly weaves in terror, tension, and comedy and action. I just feel really frustrated and confused by this in the context of Tarantino movies because it felt like so there were certain scenes, there are certain sequences that were really entertaining to me and kept me engaged. The Spawn Ranch sequence is amazing. Knowing that Tarantino had already rewritten history with Inglourious Basterds, and he had, he was always willing to kill off a major character. I thought the whole time that Cliff Booth was going to die when he went to Spawn Ranch. And it was incredible
it was great.
how he built the tension in that way. And then I really enjoy the way he did the Lancer scene. I don't know how important it was to the whole movie to have like 30 minutes dedicated to the pilot
probably
episode
not.
of Lancer. But I really enjoyed it. I thought he did it in a really fun way. I really believed I believe that Rick Dalton was playing another character. Like I thought I was watching Rick Dalton in this show. And I think the Bruce Lee scene was really fun, regardless of the controversy. But I think the structuring was so off.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Either make the movie about Sharon Tate or make it adjacent to the Manson murders.
Right.
Which was the intended purpose of this was supposed to be two people that lived next to Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. Oh, shout out Roman Polanski. Actually, no one should ever shout him out. He's a diddling piece of poop.
Take that back.
I take it back.
We have
Shut
done
back.
two movies that are related to Roman Polanski.
Well, this
the last
movie
couple
is supposed to take place like right after he got famous for,
that's right, for
Rosemary's Baby. So the thing is I thought Margot Robbie was great. And
Yeah,
I think that people
totally.
in Sharon Tate's family and friends were really happy that they got to almost like relive being with Sharon Tate. And she was taken too soon. And that's like, there is this amazing dichotomy in the movie of a famous sort of actor falling from grace and becoming like a forgotten person in the TV world.
He
in the
falls
golden
to the
age.
wayside in the
At
public
the same
eye.
time that someone like Sharon Tate is this beautiful like starlet that could be on the rise. And she
Right.
was taken too soon in real life by the Manson family.
Right.
But it almost felt distracting when there were Sharon Tate scenes. Like the whole movie theater sequence is like nice, but it doesn't have anything to do with the story that we're
Yeah,
getting.
the scene where she watches herself in the theater.
It's so distracting, and I thought like even if he was obsessed with the idea of bringing Sharon Tate back, he doesn't even use her effectively at the end of the movie. At the very end of the movie, for whatever reason, he has Jay Sebring, the hairstylist played by Emil Hirsch, come down and talk to Leo and bring him up to the house instead of actually having Margot Robbie come down as Sharon Tate.
Yeah, I don't know. There's, I don't know. It's like such a trope, or I don't know if you'd call it a trope, or just something that Quentin Tarantino does all the time, is have sort of an unusual allocation of like time for scenes. That's something
Absolutely.
that he does all the time, but it just doesn't work in this movie.
It doesn't work
It's
in this
one of one of the things that's most appealing about his work to like someone like me is that like, oh, there's a lot of time on this scene and dialogue, and I kind of like it.
Right. And
I
he
didn't
used
say
to have
that much
really
in this
lengthy, elaborate dialogue. That was
Right.
fun. And you would point to it and say, this is Tarantino dialogue. Like, no one could talk like this.
Right.
And there are scenes like that in this. I just felt like the pacing was off, and I was really worried about the runtime the whole time.
Right.
I haven't rewatched it, and honestly, I mean, I know it's in theaters, but I want to rewatch it soon. But I'm kind of also like not that excited to rewatch it because of how long it is. It's like a task to watch it.
It's not spectacular.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just not spectacular, and that's the point of this category.
This is a perfect transition.
Yeah.
Because let's talk about something that is spectacular. Inglourious Basterds.
Let's give our ratings in 3, 2, 1.
7.
Boom.
Because it is...
It's awesome.
It
I
is
love this
everything
movie.
that Once Upon a Time isn't in terms of engagement, in terms of pacing, and in terms of structure.
Right.
It is. There's no lost scene. You can't pull out a scene from Inglourious Basterds. They're all incredible. Even little things like you need the scene with Archie Hickok's meeting with Mike Myers and Winston Churchill for whatever reason, just sitting at the
You're right.
piano.
You need the scene with Friedrich Zola and
Mm-hmm.
Shoshana where he like comes up to the window while she's like having coffee in that
Right.
restaurant, and then she realizes how like popular he is, and she just gives
famous,
all the
yeah.
best looks.
Oh yeah,
like-
she's so good in that.
Yeah,
Her
there's
treatment of Daniel Bruhl's character, Frederick Zoller, the whole movie
so
was
good,
just like
dude.
amazing.
there's no scene that you can take out of this movie. It's engaging from top to bottom.
Yeah.
You never notice that the movie is super long. I mean, at least I didn't the million times that I've seen this.
Yeah, I've seen it so many times and I'm never worried about like, oh, I can't watch this. It's 2.5 hours. I
No,
have something to
it's
do later. It's like, no,
endlessly
I'll watch
rewatchable.
this if I feel like watching it.
Yeah.
Because I almost always feel like watching it.
Yeah.
There are just so many scenes that are so incredible in the way that he structures them, both in dialogue and in with the score that he uses.
yeah.
I mean, the score in Inglourious Basterds is so bizarre in some of the parts where it's like boom, 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 and it's like that hard like German metal in the background. I would say like a perfect scene that would like a perfect few scenes that really encapsulate like how engaging it is the opening scene, which is just you're filled with so much dread. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know who these actors
in every
are.
scene, I just kind of thought of this. In every scene, you learn something.
Yeah, definitely. He keeps it so detailed. Everything is so important, and the dialogue is so fun. And then the best scene in terms of like how engaged you are in terms of like humor and tension is the tavern scene, which is
Yeah.
probably everyone's favorite scene because it's just start to finish so well structured.
I just wanted to insert one more disclaimer here. Don't fight in a basement, guys.
Yeah.
Don't fight in
It
a
offers a
basement.
lot of disadvantages.
And first
One
and
thing,
foremost,
you're fighting in a basement.
fighting in a basement.
Yeah.
So just don't do it, guys.
Yeah, I love it. There's like another scene that really works well in terms of building tension and keeping you in suspense is when Goebbels has Shoshana be picked up and she goes to the cafe and she's talking to them. And then right when she's almost free to leave, Hans Landa comes in and this was like probably the 20th time I'd rewatched the movie. This was the first time I realized in my head, I think he actually does know who Shoshana is.
I think he does.
And wants to see where this is going because
Yeah.
he might see an out. It's brilliant. It's so
and
well
that's another
structured.
reason why that actor, that performance, Christoph
them.
Waltz's performance, and
Melanie
Laurent's performance are phenomenal, particularly in that scene because there is so much dialogue that is unsaid.
Yeah.
In that one scene as a snapshot.
Right. I mean, he orders her milk. I have like one more question for you, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it is, except for he says
He
it in
reminds
French.
her of the importance of the cream.
Yeah. Don't forget about the cream.
Another disclaimer, don't forget about the cream.
Yeah, true. Good disclaimer. Yeah, so that's a 7 from both of us. There's really like, it's just like self-explanatory how
It really is.
spectacular
Just watch
this
it like
movie is.
7 more times. You'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
So let's move on to eye candy.
Eye candy. Okay.
Eye candy is a category where we talk about all the visual elements, cinematography, production design, costumes, makeup, CGI if there's CGI, explosions if there are explosions. Let's start with Inglourious Basterds.
Since it's after Halloween, all the eye candy is 50% off.
Oh, yeah.
Bad joke. Okay.
Decent joke.
Inglourious Basterds. I gave it a 5.
Yeah, I gave it a 5 as well. Yeah, we're gonna agree on this. Here's the thing.
It's a hard category to give a 7 to.
It really is a hard category to give a 7 to. And even though we both find Tarantino to be an incredible director and love all of his movies, I think that even so, I don't think that he's ever had like masterful shots. Like once in a while, he has some really good shots, and he's someone who likes to pay homage to other great directors. He was, a video store clerk who just watched movies all the time and wanted to be like a big nerdy expert on it. And so you could really see that in his influence. You could really see his influences in the shots he takes. And he used the cinematographer Robert Richardson for both of these movies. And I mean, he's good. Like, he's definitely good at his job, and it is always fun, and nothing takes away. I'm just going to say it's slightly above average because there's nothing like a David Fincher movie that just like blows my mind visually. In Inglourious Basterds, I thought there were some cool things. Like, there's a shout out to the movie The Searchers. One of my favorite shots. It's a John Wayne movie. From back in the day. And there's a shot when Hans Landa opens the door and Shoshana's running out in the distance at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
That shot is like exactly,
shot.
Yeah, it looks exactly like the shot in The Searchers. So there's really cool things that he does, and I love that. I'm just not like totally blown away visually, and that's not a problem because that's not really what the movies are designed to be.
No, it's not. And there's a lot of like, I guess this goes into eye candy. Well, first off, the costuming is great in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. Really good.
The costuming's great. The lighting is good. Like, it's just it's an above average or whatever.
I think he's actually always had really good costuming. Now that I think about it,
yeah, he does. It's very purposeful. It's very well done. There's a lot of cool. I guess this goes into eye candy, but there's a lot of. Like kind of switch ups so that visually you're focusing on different things, and it kind of changes. Like, I'm thinking a little bit about the oh my God, the Sam Jackson narrated parts. Like,
I forgot about that.
It changes a little bit how you're like the design of the movie, and it kind of, I mean, that's kind of like a cool, almost like an intermission in the movie.
Yeah, it is.
You learn about
the Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah, but you learn specifically about the guy whose name I'm absolutely blanking on and should have written in my notes.
What's his? Everybody in the German army knows who Hugo Stieglitz is. Yeah,
dude, how did I forget his name? Hugo Stieglitz is amazing.
I should have talked about him earlier. That guy came out of nowhere also and was just incredible.
What I'm trying to say is the movie is fun to watch, and Tarantino uses the visual medium and switches things up in a way that is entertaining and, and fun.
I think
even if it's not spectacular.
Yeah.
It's well done.
Yeah, it's really good. So that's a 5 from both of us. What about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for you? Kind of just talk about what you like about it and what you didn't like.
I also gave it
eye candy.
I gave it a 5.
Okay.
Because much the same. Mm-hmm. This isn't really like eye candy isn't. Like, the Quentin Tarantino movies are not typically visually stunning. There aren't a ton of...
Right, if you went on YouTube and you were looking up, like, best cinematography, you probably would rarely get a Tarantino movie unless you get some of his tropes, like he came up with the shot that is someone's personal point of view if they're in a trunk, the shot that goes up.
Yeah.
That's a very famous thing that he does. Like, there are little things that you'll recognize as his movie, but not necessarily like... Wow, this cinematography was beyond
right. But I mean, again, like the costuming is great in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Agree.
It plants you in the setting perfectly. There's lots of awesome shots of wide open Los Angeles freeways, which nowadays is extremely unrealistic and makes me sad and jealous.
I know.
And nostalgic for a time in which I wasn't.
City, which is such a like... Everyone talks about that, but it really is. And now if you're listening to this from not being in LA, you're I'm jealous.
We're recording this in traffic right now.
Yeah. Oh shit!
Someone else is driving,
True.
obviously.
Yeah, those are good points. I think I ultimately just agree with you about Once Upon a Time. I think that like the costuming's good. I think the production design is really good. It really puts you in the time frame in LA. I think what he does production design for the shows that he's filming, like Lancer, are really cool.
That's an excellent point that almost bumped this up to a 6 to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Is because of the variance in the costumes that just has to be part of this movie because Tarantino has chosen to have like a movie within a movie.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm giving it a 5 out of 7.
It's awesome, but there's not a knock. Like I can't make a big knock on the visual, the eye candy of this movie.
If anything, like if I wanted to point out like one scene that I think is really impressive visually, it's the whole scene at the beginning when Brad Pitt is zipping through LA in his convertible. It's one of the coolest car scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Second to Ronin, the Robert De Niro film that you should see. It's absolutely amazing. It's on HBO. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 5 as well.
Yeah,
Nothing against it. I think
a scene for me that highlights it is, sorry to cut you off, is the Spawn Ranch scene.
Oh yeah, that's
a lot of the
really...
tension in that movie in that scene is presented just in the way that it's shot and
he does focus on feet in that.
Becomes claustrophobic. He does focus on feet,
boots and stuff like Cliff Booth walking through.
He loves those feet.
Oh yeah, he loves those feet. That was stupid. All right, let's move on to originality. Which is just, it's kind of self-explanatory, but was anything creative about the movies? Did it feel like it needed to be made? Was there anything that really stood out in the genre? Kind of questions like that. That's what we talk about in originality. So since we're already on it, let's talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
So I gave it a 5 here, and this is one of the categories where...
Dude, me too.
You gave it a 5? Nice.
Yeah.
We agree a lot. Boys. It's like we're boys or something.
Yeah, we're boys.
That's it. That's the end of the podcast.
Yeah, that's it. We're boys. I'm glad that we established that finally.
It's just one of those pairings that we have where I gave this a lower rating than I did Inglourious Basterds because I feel like, especially because they're both Tarantino movies, it's kind of a weird thing that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Weird.
That's like my dad.
Once Upon a Time
he says human instead of human.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood also rewrites history, but is less focused on it than Inglourious Basterds obviously is. And so it's kind of weird that, and maybe that's like the wrong way to look at it, that like it copies that
right, it's
part
kind of
of
tough
Inglourious
because
Basterds.
It's like opposite of like recency bias. Like
right. But it does make it seem, at least in this category, like it's not as original. However, it is a very original idea because it's not the same type of rewrite as Inglourious Basterds.
Right.
It's such a minor part of the movie when you really watch it, particularly in runtime, that they are rewriting history by changing the way that the Manson murders happened.
It creates a really fun ending, but it's really not that important in the end, like to the overarching story. But it was fun. I mean, it was like
a very fun and original ending that I laughed at so hard.
Yeah.
And I looked around the theater like, should I be laughing at
I
this
was
carnage?
laughing. Alec and I saw it and I was like laughing, but at the same time, like almost disturbed, like he almost took it too far.
Yeah.
Which he does, and I'm okay with that, but it felt like the rest of the movie wasn't taking things too far.
No.
So it was just kind of shocking.
So in that sense, that is a very like, I thought a very original thing, that there's this like slow burn of a movie and then all of a sudden the rewrite to history where the Manson murders
is so shockingly funny.
Just
and
horrific and hilarious and so over the top.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm really on the fence here because I do think that it is original in a lot of senses, and I think like even taking out the fact that Inglourious Basterds showed that he was already going to rewrite history, I think there are some clever things that he does here, and I think especially I don't really think another director could have handled this movie in a better way. I'd rather it be Tarantino of yesteryear, like older Tarantino, but yesteryear.
Yes.
But I still think that he put in some creative touches that I really enjoyed. And there's a reason why he's probably the front runner right now for director. And it's probably the front runner for script and picture, which is crazy. It's his most successful movie ever. I just also think that he got lazy in his creativity. I think that normally, as I said earlier, he would take influences from other movies and kind of show those influences in subtle ways. Whereas in this one, he literally remade stuff that already existed. Like, there's a scene where he puts, it's kind of a cool scene, but kind of not a cool scene, where it's Rick Dalton talking to Timothy Olyphant's character and imagining if he had gotten Steve McQueen's role in The Great Escape. And they literally just supplant Rick Dalton into that scene. And it's weird. And I don't like that they did that. It felt lazy and cheap. And that is where I bring it down a little bit. I also just think that the use of Sharon Tate was bizarre. And it was either like make the most of the movie about her or make it less about her.
But is that more original because of the strange allocation of time and resources in the movie?
It's creative and original,
is it more
but
creative?
It's frustratingly not what I think the movie should have been.
So it is creative, but it doesn't work for you.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
It's just, it's really hard to explain, but I am saying that it's an above average movie in originality. It's just that where Inglourious Basterds soared for being so original and a movie that no one had seen before, this one didn't feel like it was all that necessary to be made and all that creative. I think he could have spent more time working on it.
Got it.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he took a lot of time working on it. So let's talk about, so that's a 5 from both of us, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Let's talk about originality for Inglourious Basterds. I think this will be a pretty simple one for both of us.
I gave it a 6.
Oh,
What did you give it?
7.
You gave it a 7? Ooh.
Yeah. I just talked for a while, so why don't you tell me why you gave it a 6?
I couldn't tell you why I didn't give it a perfect score.
Yeah.
But I just think that, I mean, obviously it's well above average in this category. It needed to be made. Right. It's phenomenally structured. It's creative. It's got a very interesting and unique kind of style of comedy in a way that not all of Quentin Tarantino's movies have the same kind of comedic.
Yeah, it's a little different than the average. Like,
it's different than his. I don't know. Like, I can't put my finger on why it's different.
Yeah, I kind of see where you're going.
And it's the way that it's funny is different than other Quentin Tarantino movies are funny. It's not like more slapsticky. It's just more like it's goofy in the perfect moments to be goofy, I think. And that's one of the things that I think is really original about the movie.
Yeah, it's the structuring sort of where he puts in different emotions.
It's just like really, really well put together. And that makes it like impossible for me to say that there's anything about it that I would not have made that way. So I think that it's very original for that reason. I don't know why I didn't give it a 7. I'm going to think about
I totally agree.
why I wrote a 6 on this piece of paper.
I mean, I'll let you know why I'm giving it a 7.
Right.
I think, first of all, it's original in the sense that it was the first big movie I'd ever seen to recreate history and rewrite it in a really fun and absurd way. I can't fully remember, but I still have the feeling of how I felt in the theater when I saw Hitler's face being machine gunned and all the Nazis like burning to death and getting killed. I shouldn't be that excited about violence, but I am a Jew and they had it coming and it was incredible for us. I think though he borrows from other films, like I said earlier, he really paid close attention to detail and tried to make it as uniquely a Tarantino movie as possible.
Right.
I think the humor, the violence, and suspense are so creatively balanced that it really like stands out in the history of movies and in the genre itself, whatever genre it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Period piece. And I think it's just always going to be praised for its ingenuity. And there was like, even though it didn't work for everyone at the time, I think it was nominated because it was incredible and no one had seen that before. And it was so fun and so well balanced in terms of like where he was taking us. and it kind of just makes me wish that he made movies the way he did before, even though he's still one of my favorite directors, and even though he's made great stuff lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm changing it to a 7.
Boom.
And this is why.
That's speech and debate, dude.
Because as you're talking, I thought of a couple of things. Okay. So this movie's hard to pin a genre on,
right,
first of all. But one thing that it definitely is a World War II movie.
Right.
It definitely is that.
Right.
Now, I don't know how else you'd classify it. It's got elements of comedy, thriller, drama.
Right, yeah. It doesn't really exist in a genre. But
it doesn't exist in a genre, but it's definitely a World War II movie. And amongst World War II movies, it's the most original that I can think of.
Definitely.
Hands down.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best war movie, but it's the best usage of a random time period like that. We've seen so many World War I and World War II movies. Yeah. There's a big one coming out soon, 1970.
Yeah, there were a lot. It feels like there were a lot right around this time.
Yeah. Saving Private Ryan and all that. I mean, well, this was...
Saving Private Ryan was
well before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
thinking like Valkyrie.
You're just never not... Yeah, Valkyrie's a great movie. You're just never not going to have World War II movies and Holocaust movies. Trust me, right. I'm a Jew. I've seen every one of the Holocaust movies. I'm kind of sick of it, even though they're always emotionally powerful. I totally agree. I think it's a great usage of that time period.
Yeah.
So that is a 7 from both of us. Mm-hmm. Well done, Nick. Let's finish
for agreeing
off.
with you. Did you say that to everyone that agreed with you?
Well done. Well done for understanding my brilliance. The last category is called Feet or Inches.
Feet or Inches.
Feet or Inches is a category we created just for Tarantino movies, which talks about Tarantino tropes and, what that means to you and whether the movie effectively used things that Tarantino likes using, like elements of a Tarantino movie, and if it all worked for you in that way, and does it make it seem like he was the only one who should have been directing it?
Right.
Yeah, maybe, it's kind of a fluid type thing, but we're mostly talking about legacy and the history of Tarantino movies.
Yeah. So where does it stand amongst other Tarantino movies?
Right. So let's start with Inglourious Basterds, because I know what yours is going to be, and I know what mine.
7, because it's my fave.
Yeah.
What's it for you?
It's not my favorite by him.
Okay.
Pulp Fiction is my favorite by far. I think Pulp Fiction is my favorite movie of all time. Go test me on Well Actually. I'm telling y'all.
Watch Well or listen to Well Actually.
Yeah. And I also really love Jackie Brown, but Inglourious Basterds is so close to being there. And I think in terms of...
Did you give it a 7?
I gave it a 7.
Okay.
Because I think this is still all the expert usage of like Tarantino's like movie elements, which for me is like his command on the actors, the way that they are supposed to slip in and out from comedy and absurd violence and seriousness, and really good use of elaborate dialogue, with little, there's little segments and stuff. Like maybe it didn't really work for me when they have the Hugo Stiglitz thing where it's like him getting whipped. But like sometimes it is funny and it's like such a cool cut.
One guitar note that they use.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I just think that still it is something that makes me excited to show people that haven't seen a Tarantino movie. Right. I have to show them something like Inglourious Basterds. So that's why I would give it that.
I mean, I gave it a 7 in this little Quentin Tarantino bubble category that we made because I think that it stands out. I mean, all of his movies, he is so popular because he is so original.
Right.
Like he's just unique in his own way. And
no one makes stuff the way he does.
Yeah,
people
and I think that this movie is all of the best parts of Quentin Tarantino's style blended into one. Like he just nailed it. And I don't think it could get any better than it got from all sides in Inglourious Basterds.
Right.
It's critically acclaimed. It was really did well in theaters. It's really amazingly well acted. It just comes from all fronts and just, I think, stands a cut above movies like Pulp Fiction in his canon because it also has that really hardcore like mainstream appeal to it. And I know like a lot of his movies do, but yeah, I think this one just is transcendent.
I think those two are the best examples of that. Maybe Reservoir Dogs, but Reservoir Dogs, like Pulp Fiction is like him honing in on his craft. Whereas like Reservoir Dogs is introducing himself as someone who has this very unique style.
Yeah. I think Inglourious Basterds is where he goes from being culty to
Right.
being like upper echelon.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more to be said about it. Like, this is just such an enjoyable Tarantino movie, and if you're showing people movies, best movies of all time, in your opinion, generally, and if you're showing, like, best Tarantino movies, like, you just have to show this movie.
Yeah. Totally.
Even though that's a subjective opinion of Nick and I. Okay, let's talk about Once Upon a Time quickly, on the feeder inches.
Yeah, so if you compare it to Inglourious Basterds, it's just not in the upper tier of his movies.
Just feels like he lost his touch with it.
And see, I don't know if he
ways.
lost his touch or if he purposefully switched his touch up to try new things. I mean, he's been making movies for a long time. Like, maybe he just wanted to do something a little bit different, be nostalgic for the golden age of Hollywood, and try some different things. But when you compare it in his library of films, it just doesn't. I don't think it holds a candle to movies like Inglourious Basterds and Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown and Reservoir Dogs.
I think that's
or even Django Unchained. I think it's a little bit below them. Granted, it's a lot better than a movie like Hateful Eight. So I gave it a 5.
Okay, you gave it a 5. So you thought it was slightly above average for a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's slightly above average.
Okay.
Because it's an above average movie, but there are very few Quentin Tarantino movies that I think are below average. Hateful Eight is below average. Don't watch Hateful Eight.
Yeah, and the Grindhouse one. But the Grindhouse one was purposely supposed to be stupid.
Yeah, Hateful Eight's just like,
you should watch Hateful Eight. I just don't think... that one was a mess for me. I wish I saw it in a playhouse or something because it was designed to be like that. But I don't really like movies that are designed to be like plays. I'd rather just go see a play.
I like plays.
Yeah,
I don't
plays are
like
cool.
watching plays.
Oh, yeah,
as a
you used to
movie.
act in plays. Mm-hmm. Great
I
actor.
like plays. Plays are fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4 only because I just think it's just very in the middle for me for a Tarantino movie.
Okay.
There are things about it I
agree.
really loved.
Yeah.
I think Cliff and Rick are two of my favorite Tarantino characters.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to that in a little bit, a little surprise thing. But I definitely had fun, but I just felt like Tarantino's either purposely doing this or he's struggling to bring back his magic that he used to have. And even though this is his most successful movie and people really love it, it's very divisive. There's not a lot of people who think it's like the best Tarantino.
No.
I would say even the people that absolutely love it aren't saying it's the best Tarantino.
No.
And I think that some people are forcing themselves to say this is this spectacular masterpiece because it's Tarantino. And I'm saying as a Tarantino fan that I was disappointed because it's Tarantino.
Mm-hmm.
And I just
Well
think...
said.
I think that his dialogue, he just wasn't, there wasn't a lot of lengthy, elaborate, like ridiculous dialogue.
No.
There were good ad-lib moments and there were definitely like cool moments like the Lancer scenes in terms of dialogue. But I didn't really think that it stood out the way the opening of Pulp Fiction or the opening of Reservoir Dogs does for me in terms of their dialogue.
No, I think the closest is the Lancer scenes where he's
where he's rewriting a TV show. I don't know how much he actually
But then
took
like
from that.
the longest like kind of I guess you'd say Tarantino-y dialogue in it is where Leo is talking to the little kid.
Yeah, and that just doesn't
and the
work
kid
for me.
just doesn't
I know some people
she's a
thought
good
she was
child
amazing.
actor, but
yeah.
she's a child actor. Like she's a good child actor. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. She's good
She's
for
an
being
okay
a child, but
actor.
like
I don't know.
I agree. I think it just really I really love parts of it. I think I'm going to enjoy it when I get around to rewatching it. I just think I've just felt really disappointed coming out of it as a Tarantino fan, and I think that I'm just a little disappointed in the direction he's gone.
Yeah.
Even though I still really enjoy his movies and probably like it more than others. You know, it's still one of my favorite movies of the year. So let us add it up. I gave Inglourious Basterds a 32 out of 35.
I think mine adds up to 38.
That doesn't make any sense. It's out of 35 each.
Oh. I can't. I'm reading my own handwriting wrong because my
You're
handwriting.
stupid.
My handwriting is very, very bad for anyone that knows.
What did
me.
you get?
Let's see. Yeah, it's 33.
33. Oh, wow. A little higher than me. I
Yeah.
thought I would have been higher. Oh, no, because you moved up to
I
a 7.
changed one.
That's right. And then, so what is that together? 65? Mm-hmm. 65 out of 70, which is amazing. Probably the best that we've given
But
so
it's
far.
my favorite one. If not my favorite, it's not my favorite movie of all time. It's like my second favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
All right.
it's one of your favorites. And then
Yeah, I love it.
for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, mine adds up to 28.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Mine is 23.
Yeah.
So what is that? 51?
51.
Yeah, 51 out of 70 is not bad.
No.
It's definitely a good movie. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
better when you rewatch as every one of
This
his
is not
movies
one of those episodes of our podcast where we talk about a good movie and a bad movie. These are
No,
both
it's
good movies.
Good. It's
Just
showing...
one is amazing and one is good.
Right. Okay, so we normally do a little accolade section where we talk about who won the movie and who lost the movie and what are your best scenes.
Yeah.
But I thought it'd be kind of fun if we ranked, in no particular order, our top 5 favorite Quentin Tarantino characters. From his lists of movies.
Okay.
His library of film.
So I've got my 5. You got your 5?
Yeah, I do. Go ahead.
All right. I have Vincent Vega, Vic Vega, right?
Yeah.
Do you have the Vegas?
I got the Vega Bros.
You have both of them?
Of course, dude.
Oh, we agree on
I'm
2 out of
kind of
5.
mad that he never did the Vega Bros movie.
I know.
They're both so good.
I've got
Wolverine.
Django from Django Unchained.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Django.
I love that. I love so many parts of that movie, and I think Jamie Foxx is just so great in it.
Yeah, he's amazing. In it.
Colonel Hans Landa, because he won Best Supporting Actor for this, Christoph Waltz, and
then he won Best Supporting Actor for playing Dr. Schultz in Django,
Yeah, in Django,
and it
it's
was pretty much just
essentially
a
the same
second
character.
celebration of him.
it's whatever. And then Shoshana.
Oh, what a good pick!
Because
I love Shoshana.
Yeah, if you're looking
Wow, that's a dark
at
horse pick.
if you're looking at his movies, like nobody gives credit to Shoshana, but her arc is so great.
Yeah, I totally.
She
agree.
is such a complex, like nuanced character, and Melanie Laurent just crushes it.
Yeah.
So good.
I totally agree. That's a great pick.
So who are your 5? You got the Vegas.
We have some crossover. I have Vincent Vega, who's probably my favorite Tarantino character, and him revitalizing John Travolta's career in like a really weird way was awesome. It was a great risk. So I have the Vega Bros. I got Mr. Blonde, obviously. His brother Vic Vega.
Who is a deranged lunatic. I rewatched that movie a couple weeks
good.
ago, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot how
Are you gonna bark all day? little
terrifying
talkie?
he is.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's so good, and I just made a playlist on Spotify of like songs that you can only think of a movie scene from them.
good.
Like, so I have Stuck in the Middle with You from Steelers Wheel and Goodbye Horses from Silence of the Lambs. Because you can like only think of these movies that have like kind of ruined those songs in certain ways because they're so disturbing.
I think Where's My Mind on
Yeah,
there?
that's a big one for me too.
Yeah. Every
for
time
Fight
I
Club.
see there's like a couple commercials that are circulating
You
right
only
now.
think of Fight Club.
That have it, and I'm just like, why is Fight Club in this movie about life insurance? Or in this
Hey,
commercial about
dude,
life
it's about
insurance?
the mundanity of masculinity and all that.
Deep.
Yeah. So I got Hans Landa. I have the Vega Bros. I have Ordell Robbie, who is the bad guy from Jackie Brown. Samuel L. Jackson is so good. And you know what? Because I love Samuel L. Jackson so much in Tarantino movies, my 5th one will be Jules Winfield, who's incredible
Nice.
in Pulp Fiction. Yeah. But both of these movies obviously have characters that I really love and I adore, and I'm so glad that Tarantino has created all these amazing characters in endlessly quotable movies. Don't cry in front of the Mexicans, Nick.
Don't cry in front of the Mexicans is the best line.
Oh, it's so good. I love that
Oh
one.
my God. That's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. in case
Yeah,
you guys-
and I also love when
case
he's
you guys don't
like, anybody accidentally kills anybody in a fight, they go to jail. It's called manslaughter. Yeah, that's pretty good. I fucked it up.
You kind of did your Aldo Rain impression there.
I know. I'm just stuck being Lieutenant Aldo Rain. So to close it out, do you have like a recommendation that people should watch?
Oof. Does it have to be related to Tarantino?
No, I guess you could just recommend anything. I like recommending something that we probably wouldn't get to on a podcast.
Yeah.
So that's fine. It doesn't have to be Tarantino.
Do you have a recommendation?
Yeah, I think that not enough people have seen Jackie Brown, and
Yeah.
I think it is...
I need to rewatch Jackie Brown.
It's so good. I think it's on Netflix right now, or it's
I think
maybe
it is.
Hulu.
I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
It is just so good. If you haven't seen that and you don't like Tarantino's style normally, you don't like his disjointed style or his ridiculous dialogue and like hyper violence, I think that you should watch Jackie Brown. It's great. It's the only one I think that he adapted from a book, an Elmore Leonard book called Rum Punch.
Oh, really?
Rum Punch.
Nice.
Yeah, so I say that. Do you have one?
I can't think of a movie recommendation right now.
Oh, I just saw Motherless Brooklyn, which is Edward
I
Norton's.
really want to see that.
It was really good. It's a really good like detective movie. It was interesting how he did it. I kind of wonder if I would have enjoyed it more with someone like Tarantino doing it. I think it was like a perfect movie for Tarantino, except for besides the stuff he does with Sharon Tate, he doesn't normally get sentimental. And I think that a lot of Motherless Brooklyn, because Edward Norton plays a character who is afflicted with Tourette syndrome,
That's awesome.
it's like you really care about the character.
That's
like
really cool.
It's so well
wanna see
done.
that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Well, anyways, since you don't have a recommendation, maybe you guys can give us a recommendation, especially some kind of movie that you want to hear, a movie pairing that you want to hear on here. And also, please let us know what your favorite Tarantino characters are, because I think this list is different for every single person,
Right.
which is an amazing feat by him. You could send us an email. We are at facingoffpodcast@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Instagram. We are Facing Off Pod, and on Twitter we are at Facing Off Pod. If you're not following us yet on Instagram and you have one, please go follow us. You could find this podcast wherever you're listening to it right now, but you can also find it Spotify, Apple, Pocket Casts, Stitcher, wherever you want to do it. But it would really help us out a lot if you would rate and review it on Apple and tell your friends and family about it. We want to keep this growing, and we're so happy to have you guys along. We
Yeah.
haven't come up with a nickname for our audience yet, but
No,
we
we'll
could
come
at
up
some
with
point.
one.
Our faceless audience.
Yeah. I do have a recommendation. I thought of one.
Good.
Speaking of Bastards, since we're talking about Inglourious Bastards, I think you turned me on to Behind the Bastards, the podcast.
Oh, no.
You didn't?
What is
It's
it?
a great podcast. I'll tell
Okay.
you about it. But listen to Behind the Bastards. It's
Cool.
a great
Yeah.
It's a great podcast.
If you're listening to this podcast, you should listen to more podcasts. There's a billion out there.
That's our recommendation.
So next week, we are going to be doing A Quiet Place versus Bird Box, or as I like to call it, Turd Box. Spoiler alert to how I'm going to feel about it next week.
That's going to be a good one.
And then we're going to go on Well Actually, a podcast with Kane Holloway and Holly Brown. And we're going to talk about Back to the Future, which is Nick's favorite movie. And he's going to be quizzed as the expert on that.
Yeah.
So look out for that. And then we're going to do a special episode with the Well Actually hosts on this show. And we'll let you know what that's going to be ahead of time.
All right.
So you got a send off?
Yep. Don't cry.
Oh, that's a bingo.